What is up, peeps? Coach Kev here, back after a little hiatus. I'll talk about stuff that I have going on, but an episode tonight, really looking forward to. It'll be our second Manson deep dive. It wasn't like I did a deep dive on Manson, last week or a couple months ago. It was last year, but it's in there if you want to go look for it. And what's kind of spurred me on to doing this today was the new Netflix series. I believe it's called Chaos 2. But just go to Netflix. It's usually one of the first things that come up, or search Manson or the word chaos, and you'll get this. It's a big book that I read. Tom O'Neill is the author of the book. So that's basically the angle that we're going to take tonight for this hour or so that we'll be here. There's really a lot of crazy stuff and a lot of crazy tie-ins. So if you're a conspiracy person or you like to listen to them or vet them out, I lean more times than not to I used to be probably lean more to conspiracy. Now I probably lean more to the Occam's razor type. It's really doesn't have to be that crazy necessarily, but this is a case here that is that crazy. It also has a tie in a way with a person to the probably the greatest conspiracy of our country's history, at least of our time, the Kennedy assassination. It goes deep and it's wild. It's absolutely wild. And what I'm going to try to do what Tom O'Neill does and not say, hey, listen, I know what happened and I'm telling you what happened. What I'm going to tell you is I know that the conventional story, the accepted theory didn't happen. It simply didn't happen like that. But what really happened, we'll never know. Manson is dead. He was, people could say this and that about him. I think he was crazier than a shithouse rat. He was out there as far as if you would give him like a mental evaluation. I'm sure there was many if he ever would even let them, but he was way out there, and it was started from his childhood, from the kind of childhood he had. So, but let's say hi to everybody. We'll get into have a couple of slides to show you, and then have a background video. Like I like to play with a lot of different things in it, but we're gonna have to do at least a third episode on this. Maybe more. You could do an episode on Vince Bugliosi, the prosecutor himself. He was quite the master manipulator and quite the character, and he pushed the helter-skelter narrative from his book. The author was in the courtroom after that trial. They weren't allowed to have the author. He was literally making up his stories. He went along with the author in the courtroom, taking suggestions and going back and forth. Can't do that anymore, but Manson was not a good person. I'm not here to say that, or those kids, whatever happened to them, they did what they did, taking advantage of drugs, whatever. You murdered, so you have to go away. But there's a lot to get to. We'll get to as much as we can tonight. Let's say hi to everybody. Miranda going to Jesus Christ Superstar. Our high school's having their musical opens tonight, so maybe this is the time of year. You're running for school board. I think I should know, huh? When that is. Charles, what's up? Joe, good to see you. Yeah, it was a minute or two late. Cleaning up a little bit from dinner. Boston Christian, good to see you. Yeah, I'm doing good. Been busy with stuff, and I'm going to come back here and do more things. I tell you guys that, but as I start to talk in my intro here, I'll explain what. And this really set me off. Like, hey, I need to make time for this and get back, getting ready. Between union stuff that's going on, running for the school board position, it often is. Fig had a really good post today. If you check out Fig Solves, and looking at it from like a trying to take yourself out of a situation or a true crime community. My community, I mean, Delphi, Coburg, or there are certain people in communities. There might be people that go across and a couple of different ones, but there's like, the people that will carry that and then continue that, these cases. And it is what it is. It's a free country, but I thought that was interesting, and psychologically speaking, what's happening. And Fig's a pretty smart cookie, so I always take what he has to say with a container full of salt, not a grain. But check that out if you get a chance here. Jinx, great to see you. I talk to people in Discord now. I haven't been in many chats and stuff like that, but I will have time to come back with that because I do enjoy that. But if you watch a lot of videos or you see me comment, a lot of times it's after the live. I'll make a comment. Burn After Readings had some really good stuff on the West Memphis 3. And man, that's just one of them cases where I've been all over it. They did it. They all didn't do it. Maybe some of them did it. Maybe some of them didn't. I know this one didn't do it. This one probably, and I don't. It's just, it's another one of them cases where the longer time goes past, the more people forget, people die, things like that. But you know, I always kind of lean to the experts, the John Douglas type there, and I know what he thinks, and it's just, you know. Melissa, good to see you. But I have some good stuff tonight with this Manson stuff. What's up, Mustang? Good to see you. Some of the stuff, like I said, we covered. It was over a year ago that I did this. We covered it. We know what you're trying to say, Charles, as you keep. Don't worry about it. We can read it. Talking to speech or just fat thumbs. I have that problem too sometimes with my thumbs. But anyways, so a lot of stuff going on with me personally. I've been keeping tabs on certain things. You know, Delphi, Delphi's the case, right? Not a lot going on. There's a lot of stuff ancillary to it, but case-wise, there's not a lot going on. They'll do appeals, they'll do this, they'll do that. When will stuff be released? I don't know any of those questions, but like again, my channel is more focused on maybe some current cases, Flora, which we're gonna have something coming up. I was talking to a couple people about that. Always going to be Flora till we get something there, some kind of adjudication or some kind of we know what happened, because we don't. We think we have guesses, and some of our guesses are probably pretty right. And some of our guesses from people across the spectrum are probably pretty close to the same thing, but you know, we'll see how that goes. But school board thing, yeah, it's kind of in full swing. There's going to be a debate next week. I think it's the 12th. That's next week or the week after. I guess I better double check the date. But if I could stream it, I'll stream it here. I think there's 10 candidates, and they ask you a bunch of questions, and you're sitting up on stage. The Teachers Association, the union, is one of the people that help sponsor it. So obviously, anything union I could do to help anybody, I'm there. And it should be interesting, though. So we shall see. But it'll be good. I don't get nervous. I could talk in front of a million people. It's harder talking to one person than it is 100,000, in my opinion. So weather, we've been getting there back and forth. It was 70 today, rain. Those of you that are affected, I saw some people in Indiana, Illinois, I think, and probably some other states, those tornadoes. Hope everyone's okay. I saw Marvin mentioned she went out power for a couple of days, and till you lose power for 2 days, it's hard to understand. Like, oh, I can make it. It's not that hard. It's not that cold. It's right. People think that. Okay, well, that's one thing. Your food, your hot water. You know, maybe you have water running. Maybe you don't have water running. But there's so many things. Your phone, so many things you take for granted. You know, at night, do you have candles? Your water is going to be kind of room temperature probably. Do you have a cooler? Do you have a generator? Things like that. So it's a big deal. And if you use a generator, please, 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 please make sure it's vented properly. The most important thing. It kills more people than the generators catching on fire, the CO poisoning. And I've seen that 2 or 3 times in my career. And it's not intentional, but it's what happens. NCAA tournament Final Four, Wolverines made it to the Sweet 16. But it's a good year, great coach, great team. Hopefully, now who knows what we're going to have next year because of the portal. There has to be a middle ground between the way it was in the portal. Long Island serial killer. My Discord's been jumping off. A lot of people putting some great stuff in there. Commenting, Turbo posted something that kind of spurred, like, you know, looking through. Actually, someone was looking for a Delphi screenshot in Discord on something kind of unrelated. And I was just going through, like, oh, I think I might have that. And as I'm looking through this old stuff, I'm finding it. And we talked about the dolls and stuff that are placed on some of these memorials. And if it's not Huerman, I don't know. We know Huerman's sadistic. Anyone that reaches out and tortures families of their victims or sadistic. Period, point blank. They're a sadistic human being, and there's probably no rehabilitation for them, and that's what Huerman was doing. But I definitely want to do a show coming up on Lisk. Really, really, really. So I'm looking forward to that very much. That'll be coming up soon, and that's something. There's more and more coming. There's more cases, and there was also a show my fiance wanted to watch, a Brooke, called Lost. I think it's called Lost Girls, and it's a 3-part documentary. It just dropped. I've been into this case, so I pretty much heard everything that they mentioned before. There were some other people that were interviewed, people from their lives, which I thought was really interesting, and stuff like that. So check it out if you can, and check out the Chaos on Netflix, and read the book Chaos, Tom O'Neill. You probably get it now, even used paperback book, maybe for $15. It's a long book. It's about maybe 800 pages. But it's just fantastic. It kind of jumps around and covers all these different theories. And he uses what if and what. He doesn't say what he thinks happened, but he just gives you this big, massive wealth of information. He has some good interviews with Rogan. Talk about just Tom O'Neill, common spelling. He talks about in one interview he did coke. Him and his boyfriend, I think, did coke with Marilyn Manson. And they were talking about the Manson stuff, and they were having a couple of drinks. And then Marilyn Manson's just like, break it out, brother, and here you go, throws it down, and they start banging rails, and it's an interesting thing, but check him out. I think that was on the Concrete podcast, that part. But anyways, I'm gonna say Turbo. Yeah, Turbo had great stuff from the courtroom. Turbo, Aspen, from the Delphi trial. But again, I don't see myself doing anything Delphi wise unless something comes up majorly. And I'm not a law and order or law attorney channel, for sure. So what I'm going to do is show you guys a couple quick things that I think are interesting. This here is a timeline, right? This is just a timeline kind of Manson's life. And I think it's a good way to start. It looks like it's nice and big for you. Oh, and as soon as I do that, I hit the wrong button. Hold on, let me pull this back up for you. But I think it's a good one. It's a good one. It should be easy to see, and it'll just give us a start to our show tonight. Here we go. All right. So some things you might not have known. He was married twice, 3 kids. Talks about, the Manson family. Okay. So in August of 1934, his mother, Kathleen Maddox, and William Eugene Manson were married. He was a laborer at a drywall cleaning business. Charles Miles Maddox, later Manson, was born to Ada Kathleen Maddox in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1934. So they're married in August, November. That time, someone's pregnant, you feel like you got to do the right thing, especially back in the 1930s. But then there's a divorce, and then there's claims where, gross neglect of duty by Maddox. Charles retained William's last name of Manson. His mother was a prostitute. She really didn't care too much for him. So he's not like one of these serial killers necessarily hated women, but he found a way to get over on women somehow, some way. In 1937, Maddox filed a paternity suit against Colonel Walker Henderson Scott Sr., which resulted in an agreed judgment. Basically, he paid her some money or admitted or did a little bit of both that, hey, he was the dad. So again, it's Colonel Walker Henderson Scott Sr. As far as I know, Manson never had any kind of relationship with him. 1939, Rosaline Jean Willis, he ends up marrying, is born. His mother was arrested in 1939, so Manson's 5. Her and Luther Elbert Maddox were arrested for assault and robbery and sentenced to 5 to 10 years of imprisonment, respectively. So that was her brother. I'm pretty sure that was her brother. They robbed it was a liquor store or some kind of convenience store. So his mom was pulling jobs. Manson's mother gets out in 1942. Marriage of Maddox and Lewis Cavender. Ada Kathleen married Lewis Woodson Cavender Sr. Manson spent Christmas. So she gets married and kind of goes on. And Manson's kind of left drifting with people. He spent Christmas at his aunt's house in West Virginia after fleeing the home to his mother. He would be made to dress in girls' clothes and go to school and stuff like that. He was a baby. He was a sissy. His uncle was very hard on him. And that's just, it appears how he were with all his kids. He was placed in the Gibalt School for Boys. At the age of 13, was placed in the school at Terre Haute, Indiana, for any of your Hoosiers, if you will, out there. A school for male delinquents run by Catholic priests. A lot of bad things happened there. You can't believe what Manson tells you all the time. He alleges he was assaulted by other boys, by the priest. In 1947, in Terre Haute, Indiana, it probably both were true. more likely to be true than not. 48, Manson committed his first documented crime by robbing a grocery store in Indianapolis, so similar to his mother's robbery. Sent to a boys' town in Omaha after being caught stealing. So he's working his way up. He's a career criminal. He escapes the boys' school, steals cars, and goes to California. And that's where Manson becomes federal. It doesn't say this here. It becomes federal offenses, and then he kind of gets alerted to this federal justice system, where the federal justice system is alerted to Charles Manson. And I don't know how we get from here to what possibly might have happened later, but something happened here. He goes to a National Bridge Honor Camp and minimum security institution on a psychiatrist's recommendation. Parole hearing scheduled. I don't know why it just says scheduled. Granted early release. So that was his first parole hearing, obviously turned down. Granted early release from reformatory. He lived with his aunt and uncle. So he goes back to the aunt and uncle in West Virginia. We've seen it so many times with mental health in the years. Ed Kemper, go anywhere. He could go anywhere, but not with his mother. And the state of California sent him with his mother. Manson was granted early to live with his uncle. We covered that. Manson married his second wife, Rosie Jean Willis. Scheduled release from reformatory on his 21st birthday, maximum security reformatory, Chillicothe, Ohio. Arrested in Indianapolis. You just, there's more arrest here, I think, than it's what's listed. Birth of Charles Manson Jr., the son of Manson, Rosalie Willis, was born April 10th, 1956. We have pictures of him in the background I'm going to show you. Rosalie's living with another man by then. While he's away, and it's not necessarily uncommon, but September 58, he gets a 5-year parole. The same year, Rosalie received the decree of divorce. So Rosalie and Charles Jr. kind of, as far as I know, are away from him since he goes to jail. He doesn't see them again, as far as I could tell. He tried to cash a forged treasury check. So again, he becomes federal. It's another federal thing. Indictment for violation of the Mann Act after he disappeared. In his violation of probation, Manson transferred to McNeil Island Penitentiary. He listed Scientology's religion in 1961. 1961, that goes way back. Tremendous drive to call attention to himself. September 1961 annual review of Manson. Man, there's YouTubers that are like this, right? There's people at your office or where you work like this. Tremendous drive to call attention to himself. This was Charles Manson. A tremendous drive to call attention to himself, which could be explained by his childhood, by everything that happened, by all the neglect. Mom didn't even give a shit about me. She'd rather be out with guys, drunk. Look at me, look at me, look at me. This was Charles Manson. To make matters worse, he was roughly the size of Richard Allen, like 5'4". So maybe there's a little man complex working on him, but he was just looked over, shat on, spit on, stepped on. And this is the Charles Manson, not the Beatles and all. This is him. Tremendous drive to call attention to himself. In September, prison report, Manson had developed some insight into his problems through his study of Scientology. That's more than likely Manson gaming people. That's not actual insight that he ever found. We're seeing here divorces, review of Manson, echoed his observation. He had a tremendous drive to call attention to himself. That's what all these observations say about him. So then you get to headlights approached a group within a property. Watson said that then we get into, the Manson to the murders. I'm not sure why that was up there, though. That date was wrong. Let me see if they put in the right place. Yeah, because we went 1969. But there's a bunch of good stuff here, as you can see. I'll share this again. I'm not saying I believe everything in this. Yeah. So we got to get up to 1969. But anyways, it leads up. We'll go through. Mother Mary Bruner gave birth to Manson's son Valentine Michael in a condemned house in Topanga Canyon. So Manson gets released. One of the things I have in my background is the release letter. He goes immediately to San Francisco, where he should have his parole immediately taken back because he's supposed to be in Los Angeles. He writes a letter from San Francisco. And his federal parole officer named Roger Smith, who had really 1 or 2, maybe up to 5 total people that he oversaw. While these other parole officers had these huge, giant workloads, he has a couple guys, and one of them was Manson. He's like, yeah, it's a good idea. Go to the Haight-Ashbury Clinic, go to the Haight and hang around there and soak up the vibe. This is what his probation officer tells him. So we later know the Haight-Ashbury Clinic, Jolly West is involved there. The other Dr. Smith is involved there. They're running experiments with hippies, with LSD. They actually were the people, in my opinion, that got the hippies away from the psychedelics and into the speed and stuff like that. Once they got into the speed and stuff like that, it was over. They weren't hippies anymore. They were drug addicts at that point. Tracks followers through drug use, unconventional practice. He plays music. He's a little bit older. He's a little bit smarter, a little bit wiser. He knows how to do things. He could eat at dumpsters, wash your clothes. So he's like a kind of a nifty guy to have around. He's really small. He talks a lot, but he doesn't seem like he can harm you. He has a crash with his bus. I don't know if you've heard that story. They established base at the Spawn Ranch. That's where everything went down at. George Spawn owned it, and on occasion he was taken care of by Squeaky Fromm, and he kind of let them stay there. He was also blind. September 68, the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson recorded Manson's song, Never Learn Not to Love, which was, I'm trying to think of the name of the original song. It'll come to me, that Manson wrote. And he took a song, so he pissed them off, this and that. Bruce Davis, who's one of the people that was arrested with the family, worked at the Church of Scientology. And then we get into the Beatles stuff, which I'm not incredibly into, if I don't mind saying so myself. But let me get back, see if anyone's saying anything here in the chat. Alrighty. Where are we here? Yep, we'll talk Flora. Rescue all the dogs. Yeah, Flora's a tough thing. It's been a long time, so people don't have a lot of patience, and I get it. I do believe that it's being worked the way it should be worked now, and people still keep snooping around though. Maybe there's something, I always say that, if you have two people looking at something, yeah, maybe you might get the answer. But if you have 100 people looking at it, sometimes people kind of go off on their own tangents and things like that. And I understand that. And that's why police hold back evidence. So everybody and their mother isn't calling in saying, oh, I'm the one who killed the people. How'd you kill them? Well, I don't know. How they die. What's up, CJK? What's up, Jason? Yes. Once Upon a Time is it America? Or Once Upon a Time in Lost? It's the one with Brad Pitt. I know what you're talking about. Fantastic movie. Tarantino doesn't believe the official narrative either. I don't know if he believes the Tom O'Neill thing, but it is such a good movie. And I won't give away what happens at the end, but it's an alternate ending. And Once Upon a Time, I can't remember the official name. I don't know if it was America. Once Upon a Time in America, I think, was a Robert De Niro movie. Way back in like the 80s, but Once Upon a Time, and I don't know, but look it up. Once Upon a Time, Quentin Tarantino movie. And it's about the Mansons, but it's not. It's really good. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Yeah, because that meme where Leonardo DiCaprio is pointing with the beer in his hand on the couch, that's from that movie. It's a fantastic movie. Really good. Kemper voiced over 500. Yeah, Ed Kemper did. He did. He was the voice. And what a voice act. The guy's 6'8", he has a real high-pitched voice. But yes, he did. And Ed Kemper was one of those people that once he killed his mother, it appeared that he didn't want to kill anyone anymore. He just wanted to help people after that. And that sounds absolutely insane. But it appears to be what happened because that was so many years ago. And as far as I know, he hasn't even had like a write-up in prison. Yeah, that's a fantastic movie. Jason Voorhees mentions it, and it's called Once a Time in L.A., or it's fantastic. Hey, Miranda, hope your show's going good. Yeah. JJ, only 17 when it happened. Yeah. So people ask me, like, how did I get into it? Well, I remember watching, there was like a made for TV movie or something. Might have even called Helter Skelter. It might have been Vince Bugliosi's based on his book. and it was like a rerun type thing, but it was like dark, and the people were really creepy looking. And I was younger, and people weren't hippies anymore, by like 1982, 1983. But people had like long bushy hair, beards were still in and stuff like that. And I remember my mom talking about it. My grandpa was a judge, and they were hearing all these things. And it was a thing that I thought, like they attempted to remove the baby from Sharon Tate. They didn't. But I thought, they did this and they did that. And it's just, yeah. I have a Manson signature I'm going to show you guys too. I've gotten into looking at signatures. I am no expert. I'm not even a novice at the signature stuff. But I've watched a couple people on YouTube, and they explain things, and I have a new comment. Could be funny. I'll look at it later. Oh, here it is. So I have two little pictures here. Oh, hold on a second. Is that all my mail? Yeah. Okay, there was a second one there. All right. This is the Charles Manson signature. Let me put this up here for you guys. Hold on one second. And it's obviously, you're going to look at it and you're going to probably see something right away. Oh, man. Hold on a second. Let me get you back up. You're probably going to see something right away in it. And it's, you kind of laugh. It's almost like the, and I'm not comparing these two people. I'm not comparing them as human beings, and as one's a lunatic who may have definitely had influence on sending people to kill other people. I'll say that. And the other is just, I don't even know how to explain him. He's an absolute maniac. But like, it's like, I want to be so over the top with it. Like you're seeing like the beginning of like a swastika there in there, but that's his signature, and that was his big thing. Hey, BB, good stuff. I hope you don't get copyrighted like you were asking for in your video. There's some pretty wild lightning that you had there. I don't know if you're out in that area where the storms were. I mean, we had lightning too. We didn't have like bad storms, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Jason Voorhees got it. Fantastic movie. I encourage you, if you're into like the Manson thing and you want to watch a movie, it's kind of Tarantino's version, and it's I like Tarantino movies. They kind of make you think. I like a lot of the actors that he gets and stuff like that. So, but it's fantastic. Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, and they play really good roles, fun roles, if you will. Maybe they're fun. Maybe you'll call it fun. Maybe you don't. But so basically, we know he died in 2017. He was in the jail in California, and then 3 children. So we know Charles Jr., we know Valentine. Valentine got his name after the book Stranger in a Strange Land, which Manson apparently fell in love with. I don't know. Obviously not one of my things, but give me 1 second because I have to send something to myself. I'm going to play some background. We got a crash on Fifth Avenue. If you heard my phone dinging before. But I'm going to send this. I had to redo the video kind of later because I had something that I used came back. And like I told you guys before, my channel has been monetized for a couple of months because it said I reused content or something and didn't talk over it. I got a thing one day. So I'm like, all right, you could have appealed it, but I'm not appealing it, whatever the fuck. So I have sometime in April, if I want to try to do it again, I can do it. But I had a thing up that said that, I couldn't use that because of a newscast or something that I pulled it out of. But anyways, I got a good background for you. Then I'm going to get into it somewhat here. So where is the email that I just sent? Oh, no. There we go. So this is just background stuff. And kind of while we talk, so we'll kind of pop in and out, and we talk about people or people in the video, stuff like that. But just kind of lay out uh, the case for, the things that didn't line up or didn't match up, and where, just going kind of not getting too deep into each individual thing, but covering a lot of stuff fairly deeply. So we talked about his childhood, prison, stuff like that. So while all these things are going on, there's parallel things going on, of course, all over the country. One of them was the launch of MK Ultra, which was a CIA initiative that was supposed to help with night vision. Was the cover story. What they were trying was to make the Manchurian Candidate. I'm Sirhan, not saying that that's what he was or whatever, but they were looking to do something like that. So they were working on mind control, how to use acid, LSD, and other drugs to control the minds of other people, techniques to use. So the theory that Tom O'Neill lays out, and again, it's an 800-page book. You could start with the documentary on Netflix, is that Manson somehow came across to people or powers that be or scientists, Jolly West, Roger Smith, probation officer, and says, hey, this kid's has already this breaking point. He's had this horrible life. He was treated like this in prison. We could take him. We could test him. We could do things on this. And I know that sounds absolutely crazy, right? But a lot of MK Ultra, not all of it, has been disclosed publicly. And they do talk about things like this, to the point where the Haight-Ashbury Clinic and Dr. Jolly West was paying graduate students to grow their hair out, and they had like a flop house. And what their job was to give kids acid. They were in their 20s, a little bit older. They were grad students, but they would give kids acid, and they would interact with them. They'd have sex with them. They'd do whatever with them, and then they would write about it. And they were getting paid to do this. So the Haight-Ashbury Clinic was free, and they did a lot of good work there. But some of the things they did maybe was questionable. They were running tests on hippies, different things like that. They would take care. And when Manson eventually had his gaggle of women, he'd go down there. They'd take care of all their VD and stuff like that. And Manson would tell people he was handed by his doctor down there, Dr. Smith, not Roger Smith, the other Dr. Smith. He was handed jujus, or bag of jujus, he called them, and they were his candy, he said. They were a bag of jujus. They came in a brown paper bag. Multiple girls and family members see this. They never said they knew what it was. But Tom O'Neill kind of lays out the theory, like they were handing him acid. They were handing him acid, and they were telling him, how to do this and how to do that. Now, it sounds absolutely crazy, and it sounds very far-fetched. Now, did the CIA ever want the Manson family to kill the Tate people, the lobby? I don't think that ever was a plan, because I don't know. We don't want to get too off the rails here. But what I want to keep impressing to you is what they're telling you, and what the common theory was. It's just it holes are blown all through it. They're absolutely blown all through it. So we have that working over here. Manson's going through his jail stuff. After his relief, he's off to San Francisco. This is when he was released off Terminal Island. He's out in California. Supposed to go to L.A. and then report. You have a couple of days to report to your probation officer or parole officer. He goes right to San Francisco, and to the Haight-Ashbury, writes a letter and says, hey, I'm up here. I got to report to someone else. So he's able to report to Smith, and they get things going up there. But there was a letter prior to that, like I said, from his Roger Smith that says, hey, why don't you check the vibes out up there? But Manson should not have done that. He still should have been violated for going up there despite that. Well, he didn't have any official things, but why is he sending him up there? Why is he wanting to go up there? Maybe just no reason at all. Maybe just to get away from him or whatever. But Smith kept close tabs on him, very close tabs on Manson. So as you get into it and you see, like, the Manson people just called it the family. They didn't call it the Manson family. Vince Bugliosi called it the Manson family. Was Charlie the leader? Yeah, he was the charismatic, like, medicine man type leader, right? Tex Watson was a drug dealer. Tex Watson was the alpha male of that camp, right? He was the alpha male of Spawn Ranch. And I know Tex Watson, he saved, and Manson controlled him. I think Tex Watson was least likely to be controlled by Manson. The girls I could see, Clem Grogan, Brother Bobby, some of them other people, but Tex Watson was a very good student. He was a high school star, football player. He knew how to get along with people. He got into drugs, and I think he liked the women up there. But Tex Watson ends up bringing a ton of heat on all this. And another alternate theory of what happened the first night at Cielo Drive was a drug deal or a drug rip gone bad, based on the people in the house, right? So let me lay this out a little bit. So Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate were married, and Sharon Tate was pregnant when most people thought Roman Polanski's baby. Well, when Sharon Tate was found by the girls walking through the house, she was in a bedroom with Jay Sebring, her ex-boyfriend. A lot of people, Jay Sebring was gay. He wasn't. They dated Sharon Tate before. One of the theories laid out is that Sharon Tate was actually pregnant with Jay Sebring's kid, which in this case doesn't really make that big of a difference, right? But it was one of the things that they didn't want to make her look bad, they thought, so they didn't want to admit the truth. Police and media type of thing. This is the conversation at Spawn. I don't think Roman Polanski had anything to do with this crime. He's a piece of shit as a human being because he, sodomized a teenage girl. But he's clean. We knew that he was sending drugs from France through New Orleans and furniture. Supposedly, Wojtek Frykowski, who was Abigail Folger's boyfriend, the Folger coffee heir, her boyfriend was supposedly getting this, or whatever the case may be. So one of the theories is the drug rip. They're doing this. They're torturing them. Where's this at? They didn't get their stuff delivered. Along with this theory, it's proposed that Mama Cass from the Mama and the Papas encountered this scene after the murders, but before police got there, and it bothered her for the rest of her life. She wasn't going to report it. She was going over there to pick up her shit, if you will, and she came across the scene, ran out, took off. This is 1969. There's no cameras. There's no phones. There's no anything like that. So whether that's true or not, we'll never know because she passed away. And one of the other things was Steve McQueen was supposed to be up there partying with them tonight. Steve McQueen actually said this, but he was at a bar or a restaurant somewhere and ended up leaving with two women. So that those two women saved his life, or he would have been up there. So those are just some things that, on the side, ancillary, if you will. It is. Brooke got it for me. If you know, you know, right? Probably the best show ever. But moving on again, Tex Watson, he's a drug dealer. Tex Watson starts to get close with a bicycle gang. And I hope I don't say their name wrong, but I think they were called the Satan's Helpers. Was that right? Satan's Helpers. Through the bicycle gang, he offers the women, they start coming to the ranch. Hey, we got these women here. They'll do whatever for you. Let's hook up. We could get some better drug prices. You could give me maybe prices that are more on a higher up level as far as I'm a bigger guy, even though I'm not. And I'll trade you these women, a place to party. No cops are coming here. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about it. So Boston Christian, the one of the stories that went around Hollywood is Mama Cass appeared at the Cielo Drive house after murders, but before the police got there. She was going to pick up her shit, whatever drugs that she was buying from Wojtek Frykowski. And remember, Jay Sebrings, too, was the first male hairdresser to the stars. And this is what I mean. Guys weren't getting in buzz cuts. They were going to get in style by Sebring, maybe getting their head underneath the curly iron thing or whatever. They plot that goes over your head. But he was also hooking them up with whatever drugs they needed. So they come in for a haircut, 8-ball coke, ounce of weed, whatever was going on at the time, whatever people, some acid. But that was a story, never confirmed publicly by Mama Cass, but other people after her death said that she talked about that and how that affected her the rest of her life, seeing what she saw. There's a pair of glasses that shouldn't have been there. We don't know whose they were. I'm not saying they were hers or anything. There's stories that Manson went back and looked at that scene. But any of it I can't say. Any of that we can't say for sure. We don't know. And O'Neill doesn't even kind of get into any of that stuff. But so these drug deals are starting to get made. He has the backing. Tex Watson has the backing of these. I think they were called Satan's Helpers. Satan's Helpers, Satan's Disciples. But he has this backing in his motorcycle gang, so he starts getting a little, ballsy. So he sets up a drug deal with a drug dealer nicknamed Lots of Papa. Lots of Papa. He had a lot of kids, so that nickname makes perfect sense. People didn't have to be PR correct or overthink nicknames back then. You got lots of kids. We're calling you Lots of Papa. So he has a girlfriend at the time, this Tex Watson. He takes the drugs from Lots of Papa, says, I'll be back here with the money. I just have to go take it to somebody. He was going to put his little tax on it, make a couple bucks. Lots of Papa says, the girl stays here. If you come back, no problem. Tex leaves her there. He doesn't give a shit. He takes off, takes the money, rips, goes to Spawn Ranch. A call comes into Spawn Ranch from Lots of Papa, and he wants to talk to Charles Manson. He knows Manson's like, the guru guy out there, whatever. He gets on the phone with him. So however that happens, he gets on the phone with him. Manson's talking to him, and he's like, all right, man, settle down. I don't know what's going on. So Manson's pretty pissed at Tex. Manson goes back there, and he ends up shooting Lots of Papa. He went there with, I can't remember who else he was there with. He went there with someone else, and they didn't want to do the shooting. So Manson had this real old, like ancient gun and shot Lots of Papa, I think, in the arm. Took the girl. They run out of there. So Charles Manson thinks that Lots of Papa is a Black Panther. Okay, this is the story from Vince Bugliosi. Now we're jumping back into the Helter Skelter. Vince Bugliosi says the Manson talks Helter Skelter. He wants to, there's going to be a war. The black people are going to win over the white people, and the black people aren't going to know what to do. So they're going to come to the Manson family, or the only white people left, and say, we need you to rule us because we can't do it ourselves. This was the district attorney, Vince Bugliosi's theory that he got over in court in a common narrative. Helter Skelter was a song. Manson, you never really heard him say, but a lot of people said he wasn't even that big of a fan of the Beatles. Manson was more of a guy from like the 50s, like the beatnik type stuff. He was kind of more into that. And then when you heard his music later, it was almost like it was folk music is what it was. It was stripped down folk music. So, yeah, however, whatever you think and however you go there. But so the story then is they wanted to have the Black Panthers. So they're going to do these murders to frame the Black Panthers and get the heat on the Black Panthers so the Black Panthers don't come and kill them at Spawn Ranch. The bicycle people were there more. So now they're hanging out more in case something happens. Everyone's on a lookout for these Black Panthers pulling up in cars. So the Black Panthers never show up. Lots of Papa maybe had affiliations with the Black Panther, but I don't think he was a card-carrying member of the Panthers. But Manson was afraid of him in retaliation from his gang. I don't think he was afraid of necessarily the Black Panthers, right? So you go in, this is going on. So now there's a heightened sense of awareness, a legitimate one. And, this is about the time that the acid starts to kind of fall secondary to the crank and things like that, and the cocaine and these stimulants that they're doing. Now people are all rickety-rackety, and they're all jacked up there instead of taking the acid, which absolutely makes you turn your mind to mush if you take enough of it. But they're sitting looking at the stars, and Manson would get up at the fire and stand over them. This was a thing that he had. It was a short man's complex, whether this was a learned behavior, whatever it was. He did it with the criminal profilers when they went in to see him, John Douglas and Robert Ressler. He sat up on the top of the chair, sat over top of him, and they let him. Manson loved Manson, right? Now, there was a farmhand, and I'm sorry to be jumping around here, but there's just so much shit to try to get, I want to talk about tonight without getting too crazy into everything. Of Shorty Shea, who supposedly was murdered, Manson was involved in that. He was buried at the ranch. He was the guy that would go to, Mr. Spawn and say, hey, these people are doing some fucked up shit. There's some drug deals. There's this, there's that going on. Later, they go on to Gary Hinman. Gary Hinman was a music teacher who lived up in the canyon up there. I think it was Laurel Canyon. And they went over there. He supposedly had some kind of, it wasn't acid. I don't know if it was like peyote or some kind of psychedelic drug. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to rob him for his money, take his drugs from him. There was a deal where he sold something they took stuff off of him, sold it to the bikers. The bikers were pissed and came back. And that was kind of like that was the final straw for the bikers. Now something's going to happen with the bikers. We're not watching your back anymore, Tex and Manson. We're coming after you. So now they're looking out for the bikers. Vince Bugliosi will have you believe they're looking out for the Black Panthers still. But at this point, I think they're really looking out for those bikers that they ripped off. So however they did it, they ripped them off. They might have fucked up the supply, whatever. But they ended up killing Gary Hinman. Manson was there for that. Manson supposedly sliced his ear with a sword. But again, didn't kill him. Bobby Beausoleil killed him, stabbed him a bunch of times. got in a car that was Gary Hemmons' car, drove it a few hours up the road, took a nap on the side of the road with the car with an all points bulletin, with the murder weapon in the back seat, and fell asleep in the car. I don't think that was a conspiracy. I think that guy was just dumber than a sack of hammers. So I don't think the conspiracy goes as far as that to stage that, because he admitted to it. I was tired, you know. So, anyways, Bobby Beausoleil was in a movie with Anton LaVey, the old Satanist or supposed Satanist. Now we hear that he didn't believe it. It was all work. According to his son-in-law, I'm trying to think of what his name is. He has some wild things to say. He wrote a book called The Manson Files. I can't remember what his name is, but he knew Manson, and I don't know if he idolized Manson. I don't want to say that, but he definitely didn't believe the theory that was populated out to the people, which now more and more people don't believe. And again, no one thinks Manson was a good person, and his people did what they did. And yeah, maybe the girls were taking advantage of some. I don't think Tex Watson was at all, in my opinion. Terry Melcher. So Terry Melcher was Doris Day's son. Doris Day, a great actress. Her son was a big shot in the music industry, did some work with the Byrds, some other people, and was pretty successful. So Melcher does go to Spawn Ranch, and the family performs, and Melcher says, hey, I like your music. I like your scene. He's out there getting laid, doing drugs with everyone for free, but I don't know what to do with your music. I can't have you in a studio. Like, I don't know what to do with your music. So I can't help you, Charles. There's nothing I can do. Manson gets pissed off. So Melcher and his girlfriend lived at Cielo Drive, where Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski lived, were cited the first night of the murders. They had since moved. The theory is that Manson sent the kids there to kill them, Terry Melcher, because he thought Melcher lived there. We know that's unequivocally not true now, because Charles Manson and Terry Melcher both talk about after the visit at Spawn Ranch, Manson went to Terry Melcher's new apartment, left a bullet on a table, was able to break into the house, left the bullet on the table, and just left. And that goes along with what Manson used to do. They used to call it creepy crawly, where they'd go into people's house, move their furniture, and just leave, right? So was Manson just a tripped out guy trying to do this? Sure, he could have been. Or was this training for eventually they're going to go on some kind of mission? I want them to be able to get around. If they could come around in this house and move furniture around, no one's going to know, wake them up. You know, they're going to be okay. You could go either way on that, right? But creepy crawly or something, I think they would call it, and they would just literally move people around. Yeah, Doris Day's son. I hope I said Doris Day. I'm going to say the wrong actress. First, you heard about Steve McQueen. Yeah, that's pretty wild. Yeah, again, they talk about it in the book. She says it to some other people. I can't remember who she said it to, but she said, you know, she had nothing to do with it. She was just showing up. She said it affected her the rest of her life seeing that, and it certainly would affect you the rest of your life for seeing that, especially if you're not seeing that on the regular. And those are people that you know; those are friends of yours. So, yeah, it's all pretty. It's beyond bizarre. So this, as we start getting into these pictures now, we'll get into these pictures a little bit. This is Barker Ranch. Someone in the Manson family had a relation out there, and this is where they went in Death Valley, where they were waiting for the world to end, supposedly. Or I think they were just hiding out. They were working on dune buggies. They were trying to live off the land. Maybe they had some theory, hey, they're not going to come out here and find us all the way out here, but they did. So when they were arrested, they were all arrested there. Manson was hiding like inside the little house in a cabinet or something. He little fucker. He was able to crawl up in something and was hiding, and he had the buckskin on. When you see that picture of him coming in with the buckskin, he were out here in Barker Ranch at this point. There's the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic. It's done many, many great things. I'm not here to knock it, but at the time during the summer from probably 67 to maybe 70, 71, they were doing experiments on hippies. One of the things that's talked about in the book, Operation Chaos, CIA operation, where they basically want to overthrow the hippie movement. The hippies are gaining too much power. We want to cause all these social programs, all these social movements. We want to cause chaos in them. The FBI had what was called COINTELPRO. two things that were basically the same. They would write letters to the Black Panthers from other people threatening. They would write graffiti on the wall trying to get black gangs to fight each other. This is all admitted now by the government. They would do all kinds of things. They would use the same tactics on white supremacist gangs too, which I feel okay about that. But at the end of the day, this is not something that they should be doing, especially that these weren't criminal enterprises at the time. So there's Jack Ruby. So Jolly West is the guy, MK Ultra, we talked about it. Can never put him next to Manson in a picture of Manson in the same room as Manson. Tom O'Neill couldn't do this, right? But we know that Roger Smith could be a link. This was a cool picture, I thought. This is Ruby shooting Oswald, and it's a colorized picture. I don't know if you've ever seen that. So why do I bring up Jack Ruby? Jack Ruby gets arrested. He's sitting in a jail in Dallas. And they have Jolly West come from the University of Oklahoma. He's this great psychologist, done all these great things, people think. And there's Dr. David Smith. He ran the Haight-Ashbury Clinic. No relation to Roger Smith, who was Manson's pro officer. But anyways, Jolly West comes in. He interviews Jack Ruby. According to witnesses, Jack Ruby went in the interview. He wasn't saying much or anything like that. But after the interview, he was hiding under the table, and he said he heard Jewish children getting slaughtered outside. Jolly West came out and says, yeah, I don't know if he could stand trial. You can't believe anything he says. So who knows, right? We know that what Jolly West's specialty is, and it's fucking people's minds up, and Jack Ruby had his mind fucked up. Now, maybe it was before then, right? There's Roger Smith in later years. That was Manson's parole agent. He was like only detailed to like basically Manson. And he's a federal parole agent. But again, I encourage you, Chaos, the Netflix documentary, and Chaos, the book by Tom O'Neill. Tom O'Neill's in both. One of the cool things about the Netflix documentary is it seems to be true that the guy that's questioning Tom O'Neill is a little apprehensive about the stories that O'Neill tells. So it isn't just like a softball, wishy-washy thing. He's like, well, come on, you can't expect me to believe that. And then O'Neill hits back. Well, yeah, and here's how I know. There's Dr. Jolly West speaking. He got into Scientology a lot later, too. He could have been in it for a while, but he speaking about it here. But there's so many bizarre things. Again, Vince Bugliosi, goodness gracious, we talk about him. He kidnapped a girl. He held her hostage. She was pregnant. They were having an affair. He thought his wife was having an affair with the milkman. He went to the milkman's house, picked up his kid from school in a limo, took her to the store, bought her a bunch of toys, and then dropped her off. And they said, who did this? So he was doing some absolutely crazy, insane things. This is Vince Bugliosi. This is the prosecutor who wrote the book that everyone believes their narrative, Vince Bugliosi. He was an absolute, just kind of a maniac. Is what he was. But I'll try to hit on some of these pictures as we go through. But again, the Terry Melcher thing from both Melcher and both Manson, that they didn't say this a trial. He wasn't asked this a trial. They didn't want a trial to know that Manson took this bullet, but he later on, we know that these things happen. They said that. So I don't know if it was Manson that said that. Manson would say all kind of shit. So it was hard to believe anything out of his mouth. But Melcher did let it on later, and people were aware of it. So yeah, Brian Wilson was the guy, and they kind of like, the girls, they're cooking food out of the dumpster. He thought it was the coolest thing. He was a hippie dude. He had girls over the house all the time. He was spending thousands of dollars a month to cure their VD. And that's how one of his managers realized, like, hey, wait a minute, dude, where's all this money going? And they took over his house to the point where he just moved out. He left his shit there and moved out, and he had like a business manager say, hey, this house is for sale. Dennis moved out. So they did take one of his songs, and man, I can't remember what the name of the song was. It was similar to that. The name I gave you before. Excuse me, Brian. Reeve Whitson is a character in the book. He was I don't even know how to explain him, a CIA asset, the old CIA spook term where, hey, we don't even know if he worked for us or not. He was in the book, talk about him dressed as a hippie, saying he could have probably prevented the murders. So O'Neill lays out, maybe he's just like an observer and he's watching these things and he's seeing if these things develop and he wants to see what happens. and he's tied into all the other COINTELPRO, MK Ultra, and it sounds absolutely nuts, guys. I understand that, but you need to read it and see what you think. You might read the book, you might watch the documentary, and say, "Yeah, that shit's still crazy." That's Manson, his mother, and a female cousin. It says, so that's when she was, kind of still in his life. This might have been probably right before, maybe 5 years old there, maybe right before she went to jail. Here he is, getting moved around for court. Anytime he has like that blue denim on, he's already been arrested. He has the buckskin on. He's literally just coming in from Barker Ranch in Death Valley, California. There's the family, as they called him, as they called themselves. It wasn't really the Manson family. It was just the family. Everyone called him Charlie. Other guys, he kind of saw him as harmless, a little bit goofy, but he had all the girls. So if Charlie asked you to do him a favor, hey, I need to hold $100 for a couple weeks here to buy supplies up here. Well, okay, I feel like I can do it for you or whatever. So yeah, I was surprised at that. Very surprised at that. Regardless of their age, Susan Atkins died in prison. I'm just surprised at that. So why is this here? That's Angela Lansbury's daughter. Why would Angela Lansbury's daughter be in the picture? Because Angela Lansbury's daughter was part of the family. She was scooped away. I can't remember who Angela Lansbury was married to at the time. I don't know if it was this girl's father or not. They literally took her to England. So Angela Lansbury's daughter was at Spawn Ranch, was partying, who knows what she did, or you would assume, I don't know, but what is up, Frank? Yeah, I was very surprised at that, CJK, and I don't think you'll ever see any of the guys ever get out. Bruce or Brother Bobby, none of them are going to get out. Yeah, Angela Lansbury's daughter. That's something I never heard of. That came out in the book. And I guess obviously it's not something they wanted to talk about, not something they wanted to talk about. There's Manson coming in. Now, that's probably an earlier hearing, maybe an arraignment or something. He got papers in his hand. I don't know if that's indictments or whatever. But again, we watch his interviews, and some people could kind of control an interview, and some people they just run wild. He runs wild on them, and you don't know if he's speaking in codes and riddles, if he's just whacked out of his mind. They could say, how could he's whacked out of his mind if he can, have these people controlled? And he had them controlled to a certain extent, but I don't think that it was this just total brainwash thing for everybody. Like I said, Tex Watson, I think, was a drug dealer. I do. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. Now, he might have been all cranked up that night, but he went in there and said, I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's work. And those were his lines there. And acid could do a lot to your brain. Maybe they showed him how to do that. Maybe he figured that out himself. Maybe he figured that out in jail. But these girls were pretty subservient to him. But it's weird. It wasn't like a cult or a Christ-like figure. It was just like they would have, kind of done that for any guy in the family. But Charlie was the provider. Charlie would say, hey, we're going to eat this. We're going to do that. We're going to take this drug tonight. And he was older than everyone else. And he would use that posturing thing where he would get up on top of rocks and sit and talk down to them. So they're almost looking up at him. So with the combination of the psychedelic drugs, and it's like church. And it was like a psychological, like a spiritual, psychological experience that they had going on. And so again, he has power over them, but I don't think he has power over Tex Watson. I really don't. So at the end of the day, that one of the theories is that the Cielo Drives is a drug rip, right? Something happened, something went way wrong there, but that was the idea of that. So we now know that also Roman Polanski would force Sharon Tate to perform on film with many different kinds of people, animals, and different things like that. Yes. Later on, Hugh Hefner would talk about having these tapes. And supposedly he dropped them in the ocean, but they were old canisters. Supposedly on there was, Warren Beatty having gay orgies and things like that. Everyone on drugs and up there just having at it. So they had found these. One of the theories is they wanted those. They heard about them. They wanted to use that to blackmail Melcher or radio or record companies and things like that. But those tapes sound to be for real. And again, you can look up Hugh Hefner on there. Supposedly he somehow got his hands on those. The next night, or a few nights later, the next night, you have Lino LaBianca and his wife were murdered. Grocery store clerks and magnets, yeah, they were big with that. Lino did really well. They again wrote stuff on the walls, left the floor, carved stuff into her stomach, and Lino was also a big time book bank for the mafia. That came out also in the book. So not saying that the mafia sent Charles Manson or anything like that, or that those people deserved that, because they did not. But Lino was dipping his toes in some waters that weren't legal. Definitely RICO predicate-ish, if you know what I mean. So, but I'm not saying it wasn't the Manson's family. Manson was at that one. Manson tied them up. Supposedly told Tex, to go in and do this and that, and then he left or whatever. Also, with the LaBiancas, the Mansons lived in their little bus next door to the LaBiancas. This is about a year or so before they go to Spawn Ranch. Someone had property there and let them stay, and they called the police on the Mansons repeatedly. I betchins didn't know that. That was something also that was in the book that I was like, what? Did the cops look at this angle? Did they ever put two and two together? Well, the LaBiancas were never alive, and it was unknown if their children ever knew that. So that's something that's also crazy. That was the second night of the killings. And, it was a horrible thing. It ended the hippie movement. And I remember my grandpa telling me that, almost overnight when they made the arrest of the Mansons, and then all the things started coming out, cutting a baby out and this and that, the people were saying that they would see hippies on the street and, kind of hold your purse closer to you, or, ball your fist up hey, are these people going to be coming after me or whatever? And it was a shame. I think the hippies were really close. Now, was the CIA, the FBI in cahoots to overthrow the hippies, and this is how they did it? I don't know about that. I think that they were pissed at them. I think that they saw that there was a cultural shift. There was a seismic spiritual shift happening in the country. And it was just, I don't know. They weren't happy about that. They weren't happy about the Black Panthers. They weren't happy about all these different things. They weren't happy about the hippies. They weren't happy about protesters and things like that. But I don't know how it all worked out, or if Manson was they spun him up like a top and just let him go and then took advantage of the aftermath. I know Vince Bugliosi took advantage of the aftermath. We'll have to do a show just on him one night. But I heavily encourage you to watch Chaos on Netflix. Tom O'Neill was interviewed. I think it's a 2 or 3 part series. Very good. The Rex Heuermann one, Lost Girls, about the Long Island serial killer and the girls, is also very good. It just came out. And then the book, I don't even know where I have my book at now, since I put him somewhere. I don't have him displayed, I don't think, anymore. No, I got my Kobe book back there. Chaos, The Secret History of the 60s, Tom O'Neill. It's a big red book. Used copies just as good. Actually, I might have gave that away. I would have put my books on a thing one time, and one of my nephews said to me, why do you have your books there? Or what do you mean? We looked at a picture or something, or someone looked at a video. We were at a family function. And I said, well, I don't know, put them somewhere. He's like, you read them already? I said, yeah. He said, well, you should give them to someone else. That's a pretty fucking good idea, kid. So I've been asking guys and stuff at work. I don't know if anyone knows one of them or not, but it is a good idea. Instead of having a bunch of books you read on the wall, give them to someone else to read, or trade them, or whatever the case may be. But I highly encourage you, again, Chaos, The Secret History of the 60s, Chaos on Netflix, and Lost Girls. Jinx just started Lost Girls. It is really good. And the Gilbert's mother, you want to talk about a bungled police investigations. There's people who went to jail over that, and it'll make you mad. It'll make you angry. And they used to call it misdemeanor murder when a sex worker would get killed, because that's how the cops would treat it. And then you had some good people that came in there and really did a good job. And within a quick period of time, we're kind of able to get that case and get, the big ogre Rex Human under wraps. And unfortunately, I was just telling my fiance this, that he was in different states. We're talking now late 1980s to early 2010s at least. He's going to be prodigious. He's going to be prodigious. Even if he only did it when his family was away, it's going to be bad. It's going to be probably close to 20. I don't know if he'll ever tell. He might be like a Gary D'Angelo, like the Golden State Killer. I don't think he's Dennis Rader. I think he's going to hold that. Fuck you, I'm not telling you. That's the last piece of power I got. Kid picked on all his life, big giant goofball. Hated his mom, abused by his dad. We know the story, right? We've talked about it here many times. We know the story. But anyways, I'm going to leave you to it on this fine Thursday night. I don't think it's raining here anymore. If it was raining or storming, anytime there's a storm and there's bad weather, if you knew this or not, more people get killed after the storm and they go walking around stepping on power lines and things like that. So unless you really got to get out of your place, stay there until it's kind of clear, at least until the daylight comes. Unless you have to get out. Pet's missing. You got to get out, man. I get that. I'm going with you. I'm going right with you to try to find that lost cat or dog. But just remember that. Be careful. And hopefully this isn't a Behringer or harbinger of things to come with the summer, because it's only, end of March, beginning of April. We're already getting some pretty severe weather. So I don't know. Let's check it out. I am growing up. We're getting married on the 4th of July, too. She picked it. Not because we're like super, I almost said super religious, like super patriots or anything like that. My parents weren't a Big Mac and a bald eagle. But 4th of July. Thanks for coming in, JJ. We got a lot to look forward to next year with that Wolverine team. And I don't know if you've sided with them there or if you're an Izzo guy. But Izzo's, as long as you got Izzo, you got a chance. Yeah, Van Houten got out. Yeah, I appreciate everybody coming in, but yeah, check out. Roman was Jerk's putting it nicely. Thanks, you too. Be safe out there, everywhere you are. Yeah, the whole thing's bizarre, but maybe I piqued your interest a little bit. You go do some research. Maybe you find something like, hey man, listen to this shit. And I'm like, oh, I missed that. I always appreciate anyone that could do that for me. But it's just very bizarre. And it's not your typical serial killer case or something that we cover, because it's a guy kind of like manipulating, doing some string pull. And I don't think it's to the extent that they say it was, but there's definitely some manipulation there. How did it happen? How did he come about? We know how he came about. As far as the prison stuff, CIA, FBI, or CIA, leave them all out of it. That enough would have made him a bad human being, his fault or not. But then the other stuff added into it, it's something else. But I hope that you check it out. I will share the timeline thing that I have on my community page and check it out. But again, there's a lot of crazy things in this, man. There's so many ties to it. It's just absolutely nuts. And it sounds made up. It sounds insane, right? We've all heard some insane things. And admittedly, this initially sounds insane, but check it out. I appreciate you all so much for coming in. And we'll be doing something really soon. 2 things coming up: Rex Huerman and Flora. We're going to talk about both. And just keep pushing that narrative in Flora. Just keep getting the information out. I think that's the stage that we're in now. We ain't gonna let it die. We ain't gonna let it die on the vine, right? Sopranos reference. We're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep getting the information out there. So if someone knows something, if someone knows who did it, the pressure is gonna be on them, right? We got to keep putting that pressure on them. So I'm gonna leave you to it with my Satrial's Sopranos shirt. Hope you got Sopranos reference right there. My girl gets these on Temu real cheap. She orders. I have all kind of cool shirts. I'm gonna start wearing them for my lives now, like for movies and stuff like that. Flora 4, check them out. Great website, great channel. All of it. There's the tip line. Anybody knows anybody? Anything you got. Anything it's stupid. Maybe this doesn't mean that. Maybe it does mean something. You don't have to be local for that either. All right. I'm not able to make it this weekend. I work Saturday, JJ. I would love to meet you, but I hope you have a great time. There are a lot of great people there. A lot of great people you'll see, for sure. You'll meet friends for life. I did. People I still stop to or still talk to. All right. I'm gonna leave you to it. Happy Thursday night. A couple baseball games on tonight. Final Four Saturday night. I got to work. Hopefully we get to watch it. But the way things been going in town, it's going to be a check your score on your phone every half hour, 45 minutes type night. But it comes with the turf. The game's the game. All right. Have a sip and get out of here. Thank you. Love you all. Coach Kev out.